Well, thank you all for coming out on this beautiful summer morning. You could be doing other things, but it's good to invest in your spiritual life and join the Sangha. Good medicine, and we need that. We always need that. So, I hope you're enjoying the summer and taking time to do whatever you do in the summer, whatever that might be, picnics or swimming or walking or blowing bubbles or doing crafts, whatever. But it's a nice time to take some time to do that if you have that space in your life. And recently I went up to Blue Pool. Some of you have been there or know about it. Anju. We've hiked there several times. So up the Mackenzie River that flows into Eugene, that's our water source. The river goes underground and it surfaces in this magnificent blue pool. I shouldn't be advertising it because it's becoming too popular, but it's okay. We should all go. But the road was blocked because they're doing salmon restoration, which is, I'm all for that, so I wasn't too upset that I drove that far and I couldn't get through. And they had a helicopter and they're bringing in gravel and large trees and placing them to create these pools for the salmon to spawn. So it was amazing. And I was thinking, wow, salmon are troubled species, but they're working at it. And I think, well, the salmon have to swim from the ocean, right, up the Columbia River, which is just north of Portland, up the Willamette River, go into the Mackenzie River, just outside of Eugene, north, and all the way up to where they're working on that little pool. Right? Pretty amazing. And I also get spring water up there, so right where I was parked, I couldn't get through the road. But there's this gushing waterfall, and it's drinkable, potable water. So I filled up some jugs to get all splashed and cold and wet. And I'm still drinking it. I had some this morning. I'm a devotee of water. Obviously, we wouldn't live without it, but I indulge in water. I go under cold hoses and walk in water. So I'm a water yogi of sorts. So if you're looking for a miracle today, just turn on the water and splash some on your face. Okay. We always like to connect with nature. Well, also, I heard that Jonah Macy's name was on the merit list. Thank you, whoever put it on. I'm not familiar with her work, nor have I met her, but she is a great Buddhist teacher, American, and dynamic environmental activist. So, Jonah Macy. It's amazing, really, that with all the challenges of our times, there's always been challenges, just new ones, and difficult people. There's also amazing people and amazing opportunities and amazing things going on. So this temple is one of them. So thank you all for supporting it. So there is medicine in the world, so that's where I like to put my attention. So the Hojo-san, who's taking a little break, wonderful, wandering about with his wife. For the last 3 weeks, previous weeks, he was talking about not two gates. And so the title of this talk is Entering the Gate of Zazen on the Wings of Compassion and Wisdom. So there's lots of gates in Buddhism. And particularly the Japanese are just fond of gates. I've never lived in Japan, but I've worked on some gates with Japanese carpenters. And if you've ever been to the Japanese gardens in Portland, there's amazing gates there, various kinds of gates. Now a gate isn't necessarily a door, there are those, but a gate is a passageway primarily. And the gates primarily that Hojo-san was exploring were more spiritual, psychological gates, although he did mention there's gates in Japan and there's no walls, nothing. You know, why is that gate there? And so gates. So we have a few gates around here, and maybe we'll build some more and get some volunteers, and we'll just have gate crews. Even little gates. We can build some little gates and put them around the neighborhood. Yeah, why not? And I was just reading a little newsletter from Myobun, our Dharma sister, who's walking through a gate every step. So she's walking, from Eugene, from Budai Temple to Washington, D.C. on Liberty Walk. And so I'm very excited about that. And she's doing her gate walk, opening the gate to all the people she meets and making connections. So good for Myobun. She's still doing it. She's in Idaho. Oh. So thinking of gates also in a more physical, spiritual, psychological dimension, we all pass through the gate of birth, right? Major gate. And thank you, mothers, all mothers. They're the keepers of the gates. And the pelvis is a gate. It's a bony gate. Right? We come through it mostly if you have a C-section. But we pass through the gate of birth. That's a gate. And so, thinking of gates and talks, Hojo-san gave, we are deeply connected with gates right from birth. That's a gate. And I read a lot of poetry by Gary Snyder, who's a Zen poet, still alive. He just celebrated his 95th birthday in the Sierra foothills, and his temple there is called Ring of Bone. There's a gate, there's a ring of bone. And he referred to the birthing gate as the gates of all. So, quite a mystery. These are sacred dimensions of mystery, and we all pass through it into this life. So what do we do with it? So entering the gate of Zazen on the wings of compassion and wisdom. And so that's a nice image and analogy and so forth. Compassion, we all know what that is. We need more of it. We should practice it every day in one way or another. And speaking of, the Dalai Lama just celebrated his 90th birthday, and that was the start of Compassion Rising World Tour. Right? So that's quite amazing. It's not Lady Gaga or any pop star that you like, which is fine, they have their place, but the Compassion Rising World Tour just started. So, tune into that if you wish, and there'll be various events happening around the world. He was the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, so there'll be a celebration concerning that, and he's received numerous other awards. So here we are in challenging times, and a being like this somehow magically surfaces. Huh? And the Dalai Lama and a Dalai Lama is the incarnation of Avalokiteshvara. That's what a Dalai Lama is. So their whole life is centered on the practice of compassion. And we this morning, at morning service, we chanted the Heart Sutra, and Avalokiteshvara, in the Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, when deeply practicing Prajna Paramita, clearly saw that all five aggregates are empty. Now that's big stuff, but basically we're all connected. That's the message. And you can go into all the nuances and have fun with all the Prajnaparamita literature and all the things we study and practice here, because it's just lifetimes. The shortest sutra is the Heart Sutra. It's like 25 lines, and the longest one is about 100,000 or more. So if you feel inspired, you can keep reading for years. But I like the Heart Sutra because it's short and simple. And other famous ones that we study, not famous but well known in practice, is the Diamond Sutra, also very short. And last term was the Lotus Sutra. And that's possibly the first sutra where Avalokiteshvara is mentioned. So I have this picture. I usually bring in a board with a big poster because I love this painting. You won't be able to see it. Maybe I'll pass it around. But this is a painting from the Ajanta caves in central western India. A good friend of mine has been there and seen these. And these caves are like 2,000 years old, and they were covered over by jungle. It hadn't been seen for centuries, and these British guys, hunters, in the 1800s were out going through the forest hunting, and they came upon these caves. And it's one of the nicest collections of Buddhist art on the planet, all intact. So there's paintings and sculptures in the stone and all the Ajanta caves, quite amazing. And this is a painting of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva holding a lotus. And sometimes they're Padma, they're blue lotuses. I'm going to pass this around, take a little peek at it. I'm sorry I don't have the big poster, I couldn't find it. Sometimes Avalokiteshvara hides. So the Dalai Lama is an embodiment of this being, this energy. I think in Avalokiteshvara is Sanskrit. In Japanese it's Kanan. And Chinese Kuan Yin. So you've all heard this name in one way or another. There's all sculptures all over the world of little Kuan Yins, all sizes. They're somehow very popular. And I think I bought my mom one when I was a little boy, like 7 years old. That might have been my first connection with Buddhism, from the local drugstore. There was a little Kuan Yin sitting in there. And in Tibetan, which is Dalai Lama's lineage, it's more like Chenzerig, something close to that. So there's various names, in each culture that's Buddhist. And I like to explore these other teachers that are not Zen teachers, because for me, Buddhism they're part of the soup of Buddhism. So Tibetan Buddhism, Vajrayana, the diamond, or Theravadan, that's mostly in Thailand and Sri Lanka, and then Zen, which is what we're doing here, Soto Zen. But it's all connected, so I like to explore what these other folks are doing. That makes the soup a little more interesting, the Buddhist soup. So compassion, one name for that, and we actually have a person that comes here that has that name, Karuna. Karuna. We want to embody this, in our lives, and we all do in some way or another. That's part of being human. But if we work at it, then and water it a little bit, then it grows, and we cultivate that in more challenging situations and times. So Zazen, the wings of compassion and wisdom. The point being is, if you were just compassionate, that'd be wonderful. But the balance is the other wing is wisdom. But not usually the wisdom that we think about in Western culture, which is more like knowledge, which is wonderful. It's called jhana in Sanskrit, jhana, knowledge. But this wisdom is prajna. So that's prajna is more like everyone has access to it, and it's more like direct intuitive insight, right? We all have that to some degree. And if we practice and cultivate Zazen, we're actually engaging in that process. That's accessible to everyone, wherever you are. You don't need any special tools, any special places, except Buddha, come here and share with us. But so we have access to prajna, and if you're a 7-year-old girl, you have prajna. And so there's a balance of the wings of compassion and wisdom, right? Soaring on that and using that both in good balance as medicine. And then when we sit Zazen, we do this cosmic mudra, and we touch our thumbs just lightly, like there's an electrical current. And we hold it down here, so right in that zone is the hara in Japanese. That's a little power center right here. Or possibly is the solar plexus, yogini? Solar plexus below your navel? Right up here. So we're a little lower than that, so she knows.
They're all important.
Yeah, yogini. Anyway, but the hara's down here, and that's where this mudra is right here, right? So, but I had this interesting thought connected with these thumbs, right? So I'm a student of art history of the last 50,000 years, because that's roughly when we've been making it. So it's not just Eurocentric, but this little story is. So on the Sistine Chapel, there's a painting by Michelangelo, and it's of God. It's called The Creation of Adam. And it's God in flight with a big gray beard and long hair and robes. And it's very dynamic, and the finger is outstretched like this. And then directly across from him, they're in the sky floating in the clouds, is Adam. And it's the creation of Adam, right? And Adam's hand is out here too. Now, this story greatly informs Western civilization as I speak. The reason I'm mentioning that is this dynamic energy between these two fingers in the painting, and I'm very excited about what we do with our thumbs. And we're engaged in dynamic creation right here when we do that. And there's no gods in Buddhism, so we all get to be gods and goddesses in sitting Zazen. So this mudra has a lot of energy. So things change, and that story isn't necessarily as relevant to a lot of people. So we need new stories, and part of the new story is sitting Zazen. We all have direct access to compassion and wisdom. That's what we're doing. We'll be exploring, I think, in depth, not that we always don't, but this coming practice term in the fall, Zazen. Hojo-san's all excited about, that's really central to Soto Zen. That's big time. And we always do it, but we're going to do it, come at it from different directions, and explore that together. And, if these times need medicine, and they do, there's medicine there. So there's medicine that all of us can access. Very much so. As like Gandhi said, when there's a lot of problems, and he faced numerous ones, him and his Indian brothers and sisters, he just said, become the change you seek, right? So instead of trying to change this person, that person, which would be nice sometimes, we need to work on that change ourselves. And by sitting Zazen and studying some of the sutras and embodying them, we are doing that very directly. Very directly. So thank you all. So concerning that, the prajna, Tenkan, who had come here for years, he recently passed over to the other side, so to speak. He was fond of saying, how intimate not knowing. That's kind of Zen, you know. Mm. But there's wisdom in that, you know, that not knowing. You're just being, you're not thinking, and you're not knowing. So Dogen, who's the founder of our school, Soto Zen, you know, 13th century, Japan, he wrote a whole piece throughout his life, actually, his teachings, like Fukan Zazengi, Universal Instructions for Zazen. We used to chant that all the time here. For whatever reason, we don't now, but we practice that. But he said, the art of Zazen, entering the dharma gate of joyful ease. Now, we all know that sometimes sitting Zazen is not joyful ease. For one reason or another. Sometimes. But we have direct connection with that medicine, and it is joyful ease. So I encourage you, because our thoughts bubble up and our bodies take. Oh. But yeah, there's joyful ease in medicine and in sitting, and we've all experienced that, but it is there. It's not something distant and esoteric that someday when you become enlightened, wherever that is and when, I don't know anything about that stuff. But you know, we have it right now, just sitting and being with compassion and wisdom. And so the Dharma gate of joyful ease. And Dogen goes on to say, the art of Zazen is non-thinking. It's not thinking or not thinking, it's non-thinking. This is the art of Zazen. That's Dogen. So again, that's not jhana, that's not knowledge. And nor are we pushing away something or grasping at it, right? The dualities, that's Hojo-san was talking about that. Not two gates, you know, because generally speaking, the human condition, we're involved in dualities continuously, and then we get into conditions like we are now all over the world. By choice, we don't have to go that route. So, not two, you know, entering the gate of compassion and wisdom. Well, let's read a little bit from Master Thich Nhat Hanh, the great Vietnamese Zen master, who passed away just several years ago. And this text is actually his commentary on the Heart Sutra. So I'll read a little bit. Called Freedom. Because there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas, supported by the perfection of understanding, find no obstacles for their minds. Having no obstacles, they overcome fear, liberating themselves forever from illusion and realizing perfect nirvana. All Buddhas in the past, present, and future, thanks to this perfect understanding, arrive at full, ripe, and universal enlightenment. That's actually quoted out of the Heart Sutra, one interpretation. These obstacles are our ideas and concepts concerning birth and death, defilement, immaculateness, increasing, decreasing, above, below, inside, outside, Buddha, Mara, and so on. Not two gates. Once we see with the eyes of interbeing, these obstacles are removed from our mind, and we overcome fear, liberating ourselves forever from illusion and realizing perfect nirvana. Once the wave realizes that it is only water, that it is nothing but water, it realizes that birth and death cannot do it any harm. It has transcended all kinds of fear, and perfect nirvana is the state of non-fear, the dharma gate of joyful ease. And perfect nirvana is the state of non-fear. You are liberated. You are no longer subject to birth and death, defilement and immaculateness. You are free from all of that. That's just freedom riff. A mantra is something that you utter when your body, your mind, and your breath are at one in deep concentration. When you dwell in that deep concentration, you look into things and see them as clearly as you see an orange that you hold in the palm of your hand. Looking deeply into the five skandhas, it's also called the aggregates, Avalokiteshvara saw the nature of interbeing and overcame all pain. He became completely liberated. It was in that state of deep concentration, of joy, of liberation, that he uttered something important. Now he's using pronoun male he. Avalokiteshvara can be and has been throughout history female and male. We need compassionate males also. Avalokiteshvara's mantra is Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisva. Gate means gone. Gone from suffering to the liberation of suffering. Gone from forgetfulness to mindfulness. Gone from non-duality. Gate Gate means gone, gone. Paragate means gone all the way to the other shore. So this mantra is said in a very strong way. Gone, gone, gone all the way over. In Parasamgate, Sam means everyone. The Sangha, the entire community of beings. Everyone gone over to the other shore. Bodhi is the light inside enlightenment or awakening. You see it and the vision of reality liberates you. And Svaha is a cry of joy or excitement, like welcome or hallelujah. Gone, 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 all the way over. Everyone gone to the other shore, enlightenment, Svaha. That is what the Bodhisattva uttered. When we listen to this mantra, we should bring ourselves into the state of attention, of concentration, so that we can receive the strength emanated by Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva. We do not recite the Heart Sutra like singing a song or with our intellect alone. If you practice the meditation on emptiness, you penetrate the nature of interbeing with all your heart, your body, and your mind. You will realize a state that is quite concentrated. If you say the mantra then, with all your being, the mantra will have power and you will be able to have real communication. Real communication with Avalokiteshvara. And you will be able to transform yourself into the direction of enlightenment. This text is not just for chanting or to be put on the altar for worship. It is given to us as a tool to work for our liberation, for the liberation of all beings. It is like a tool for farming, given to us so that we may farm. This is the gift of Avalokiteshvara. So every Sunday we do recite that. And actually during the week at noon service we do the chant in Sino Japanese 3 times, Heart Sutra. Mata hanya haramita shinyo. Are there any questions or insights or inspirations or anything? Please.
Kogen?
Yep.
You mentioned the intimacy of not knowing, and then also how we have to give up our fear. But I feel like the most common way that we give up our fear is with like certainty or expectation, right? We try and like get away from it.
Mm.
Can you talk more about that intimacy of not knowing?
Yeah. Well, it's complex because as humans, we do have fear, right? I mean, as humans. We want to be alive, we don't want to be injured, and it goes on and on and on. But then, of course, it can become excessive. For me, it can be. And if I read too much news, it gets invigorated more so. And so how do we deal with that? Because fear is part of being human, but to some degree it has a function as far as self-preservation in certain situations, but also it can be very debilitating. I found that to be true for me and for other people. So the balance is to be aware in the moment of your mind, right? Mindfulness about what's going on. And it helps to take some breaths and just, be aware. I'm not saying that the fear is all going to go away. This is ideal. Some of these readings are very nice. But in life, in certain situations, we have to face. So I would say just be as present as we can and be compassionate with yourself and those around you. And prajna is the insight of any particular situation at any moment. We all have that, right? And so whatever that situation is, potentially there's some medicine there that we can respond to and act accordingly in a wholesome way. That's all I can say.
Can you speak about practicing compassion for difficult people in difficult situations? I mean, as you've mentioned, and we all know there's plenty of them around, and then part of it for me is staying away from the news.
Yeah.
But even just in everyday encounters.
That's right. Yeah, of course. That's part of being human.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I learned something interesting from Ram Dass. Some of you know Ram Dass, American spiritual teacher. But I connected with him when I was a teenager, and I met him. But that aside, he said, and he was involved in politics. He was very aware of politics. His father was a very wealthy person, president of a railroad, and he was part of all of that. And he said, well, I had a real problem with a lot of these political leaders. It was the people that I really disliked. I got a picture of them and I put it on my altar. Right? Because generally speaking, we don't do that. Right? Now, he didn't necessarily agree with their actions and words, but he was compassionate because he realized that they're deluded. They're deluded human beings. And so, in that sense, I practice this too. I don't have their pictures, but they're in my daily merit, spontaneously pop up because they're my consciousness. And instead of bad vibing them and wanting to do something unwholesome, I try to use some energy that will be transformative. Right. So, but to answer your question, in a media, you're walking down the street and this happens and boom, 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 right? Which we all experience. This doesn't necessarily mean that the person, whatever they did or said, is not wrong, but there's ways, as we all know, if we use the correct words, it's amazing how that can change. Because people know when they messed up, generally speaking. Mm-hmm. And in our culture, and maybe in human condition, the response is natural. Well, of course, they did this thing, so you're going to respond accordingly. Which then that creates the world we're in right now, this cycle of revenge, right? Sure. And so each of us has the opportunity in any given instant that we don't react, right? Mm-hmm. Again, there's appropriate for each situation. There's an appropriate. But I believe we have choices that are more wholesome. So that's what I try and work on.
Kogen.
Right?
I think about practicing compassion and that feels relatively straightforward in terms of thinking a compassionate thought or feeling compassion. And when I think about practicing wisdom, I feel like it's a little more elusive, and perhaps it's finding that through Zazen or, that kind of longer term practice. But is there an immediate practicing of wisdom or connection with that?
Yeah. It's not about thinking, it's about the human heart. So in any situation, of course our minds are there, our intellect, that's part of who we are. But prajna is more about heart-mind, like the Japanese say, right? So then everybody has that, children, everyone, And so we have to practice being more centered in the heart chakra, I would say. And there's wisdom there. I don't see that in editorials. I read them. They're just very intellectual.
Teacher, is it Koshna?
Kogen.
Kogen. Teacher Kogen. Will you speak a little bit more to your devotion to the water and water as a potential teacher of wisdom and compassion?
Well, it's interesting. My hometown is called Waterbury. And there's a river that runs through it. So I was off to a good start. And my father in particularly loved water. And we used to go fishing, and he taught me how to swim when I was about 4 years old. And so I do a thing with water, so I take a little shower, and then I have some little prayers, and I do some chanting outside after I put water on me. And this isn't new. I mean, if you go to India and other cultures, could be Africa, they have traditions of gods and goddesses that are totally related with water. Why? Because that's the source of life. Try going 3 or 4 days without water, And what's amazing is going up to these springs is there was no knob, there was no meter measuring how much water was coming out. It was just flowing freely, and ultimately ended up in the Mackenzie River. And so this is amazing. So, and then the forests are all around. So when are we going to base our economy on the wisdom of nature?
Kogen,
Right?
I just wanted to thank you for talking about the Mackenzie River. And for a long time.
I know you're an old fan.
What?
I know you're an old fan of that region.
Yes. Well, I think, I grew up in California and the Big Sur coast. So
Amazing.
I had my standards when I came here, but the Mackenzie was the place I fell in love with. And so I consider it the whole thing, including the lake, where the trees are, all of it, has something that I respond to. And I have not ever hiked down, but I think some people here were with me that day, and we hiked as far as we were over it.
Oh.
So I think the native word is Tamwach.
That's right, yeah.
So, I can't quite say what I want to say here, but it just seems to me sacred water. All water is sacred. And just this morning, the day is never right if I don't have that shower in the morning. And this morning, I was actually thinking, I need to give thanks every morning for this. I also have had experiences completely unintended that are out there somewhere. So we need to be, I just like everything you said about water.
Mm.
And we mustn't take it for granted because not every place has water.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Important topic. Mm.
I was going to ask you to say something about the not to-ness of compassion and wisdom, but when you were talking about water just now and about the spring flowing freely, and the like, I think that you said something really important there about the generous flowing of,
Mm-hmm. Mm.
of the world, and I wonder if you could kind of talk about all that a little bit.
I'll try. Water says it better. I like what you said. You know, sometimes you say things you don't even know what you've said, and it's just how it is, I guess. You know, when people hear it, they go, oh, "Okay." So maybe that people listening have drawn it forward. Okay. No, I will respond best I can. So the flowing of compassion in water. Well, ultimately, you know. We're compassionate because of this situation and this person and this instance, this incident. And what Hojo-san was exploring was, at one level, there's none of that separate from us. It's not, actually. But we're in this material plane and we have this mind and there's the over there and there's here, and that's reality. That's part of reality, but it's not all of reality. And part of sitting and studying and engaging Zazen, compassion, and wisdom is we're working with that ever elusive edge of medicine. That's that flowing water. I don't know.
How intimate.
Yeah.
Kogen,
Right.
is compassion just a feeling, or is it an action, or?
Yeah, right, sure. Yeah, good question. Well, I mean, there's been situations that you have observed or you've read something in the paper, saw images and all, and different emotions arise, but and you know, it doesn't have to be human. Animals, you know, I drove by a number of dead creatures in the road this morning, and I think they were in a flock of birds. You know, and every 20 feet there was a dead bird, and I was going, wow, man, that's like, and I have a car too, but it's like, wow, that's, you know, you feel a connection with that loss. And so that comes up all the time. I mean, Thich Nhat Hanh goes so far as he sees a leaf blowing in the wind, and it arouses compassion in him. So it's all around us. You know, it's really engaging in the life of the planet. You know, in speaking of water and rivers, I was in Varanasi on a Buddhist pilgrimage. That's the most sacred place in India. And the river flows through there. And throngs of people come from all over India and the world to go in that water to bathe. It's a sacred river. It's got a certain vibration. It's also somewhat polluted in certain ways, and so I didn't jump in because you have to believe. But I put my hand in and put it on my forehead, you know, and was observing these people. They're all joyous and they're going in. They're on their beautiful saris and stuff, and I'm experiencing these people have a relationship with this river that it's sacred, and so I've never seen that in the U.S. So people playing and diving in the rivers, and that energy's there. But this is an ancient practice of these people. That's the relationship with the Ganga River. And so
Maybe one other comment. Well, I find it really difficult to accept that people want to swim in blue pool. I feel like they shouldn't,
Because,
because it's sacred water.
oh, I see.
And then we pollute it by putting our bodies in. It's just, it's
Yeah.
something I struggle with. It feels like it desecrates it because we're swimming for recreation rather than treating it as a sacred pool.
Oh, maybe you'll be a guardian of that pool.
Maybe I'll be a
You'll
guardian.
transform these people, and everybody that goes near that water is going to be holy and they're going to go in and help.
Maybe that's it, yeah.
The blue pool goddess.
The blue guys.
Shall we have coffee?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.